Welcome and thank you for choosing True Grit, the show about what it really takes to rise, rebuild, and stay the course when life hits hard. I'm Kalish, a coach, storyteller, and believer in the kind of strength you can't fake. Around here, we talk about real people, real stories, and the lessons that shape us, from resilience and mindset to health and healing, because grit isn't about grinding harder, it's about who you become when you don't quit. Let's get into it. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to True Grit Podcast. I am your host, Kalish Morrow, and as always, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time out of your busy schedule and making this part of your day. And because of that, I really take the responsibility seriously that I deliver something really important for you to hear today. And hopefully this is a message that lands really well with you, whether it's the whole thing or just parts of it. So today I'm going to get a little uncomfortable by sharing a piece of myself with you, but I noticed that there was this big evolution that took place, and while I've seen it happen in other areas of my life, I didn't really expect it to hit me here. Really, what's coming up for me is how I am rewriting my relationship with alcohol. It is not something that I want to give up entirely. It is not something that is like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, I need to go to AA, but it has been a part of my life for so long. I'll get into the story a little bit about that. But what I want to go over is basically those old stories and the habits that have been built of them. There's that identity gap that I am identifying with, I've now identified, and how I'm now setting parameters so that it still fits within my life, but doesn't overtake it and doesn't create that negative impact like it once did. So how this came about was a few weeks back, maybe a couple months back now. I'm trying to keep it straight, but I was driving my husband to the airport. It was a Monday morning. And my plan was to drop him off. And I was going to go over into the city. We live near New Orleans. It's about 40 minutes away, but since I'm going to be out in that area anyway, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a little treat day. I am going to work, but I'm going to work out of the house. I'm going to go find some fabulous cafe in New Orleans and just sit there and write and edit and do the things, all my admin work that I need to do for the business. Some of the things that just really make my work enjoyable is creating those opportunities to have these beautiful experiences, even though I'm working. And that way it doesn't feel like these tedious tasks that I have to take care of. And I think that I show up better that way. So anyway, I'm going and I look for a cafe, sit down there, and it is fantastic. And it's fantastic. It's got that, kind of like old world vibe to it. There's like typewriters out and stuff. And it's great. The problem though was my head was so fuzzy. The brain fog was so bad that I was having a hard time enjoying my time there. I ended up finally just packing it in and heading back home a little bit earlier and just seeing what I could get done. What had happened was it had been the weekend, get together with family, friends. We do our Sunday fun days, and we tend to have cocktails throughout the day, rosé all day, that kind of thing. And while I don't feel like I'm drinking to excess, it is still obviously depleting your body of minerals and electrolytes and all those other things. Your body is working overtime to process it. So I realize this. I know that this is happening. And despite knowing this, I still let down my guard, which is what happens often with alcohol because it loosens you up. It loosens your inhibitions up more, and you just don't make as smart a decisions as you would otherwise. Now the thing is, this was happening a lot on Monday mornings. I'm expecting to hit the ground running Monday morning, but all of just that fog would just come over me. I would have some anxiety that would come up too. Just things that were obviously getting in the way. Now, I have high ambitions for my work. I'm still at the very early stages. I've been laying out these foundations. I am making connections, working with clients. Like, I'm so excited about the future of my business, but I know I'm working with one hand tied behind my back when I'm doing these things. And so this was like a realization that was coming up, and I'm just living in the moment of these Mondays where I am just frustrated knowing that I don't feel like doing reach outs. I don't feel like talking to people. I barely feel like just getting the bare minimum done. It's having a negative impact on my business. And so on my drive back from New Orleans, I sat there in silence a lot and something was coming up for me. And it was just the fact that this was part of my old identity and I needed to let it go. And how this became a part of my identity was because of the lifestyle I had, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. I don't regret it at all. I loved my 20s. I was a skydiver around phenomenal people. We also partied a lot, though. Like, that's just the reality of it. We partied a lot. We played hard. We cried hard too. We worked hard, but that was part of that. When I left that, then it becomes this military spouse. It's okay to be drinking wine in the middle of the day, like kind of a little bit of woe is me a lot of the times because, it's not an easy life to be a military spouse, to be pulled away from your family, your friends, your support network. You're being thrown into a whole new world, and your other half that you've given everything else up for is hardly there too. And then you have to worry about, like, if you want to go out and have some sort of social life, you're worrying about childcare, which means not having your family there, friends or whatever that you can kind of like just call up like at a drop of a hat and be like, "Can you come and help me out with this for a little bit?" Or I don't know, I need to have an evening out with the girls. I've just got to take a break. It's also costing you money because you have to hire a sitter. So much going on there. We won't even get into the career aspect of it too, but a lot of things that you have to deal with when it comes to a military spouse. I won't go into the full thing there, but that was just the reality of my situation. And so, yeah, it became okay, you can drink wine in the middle of the day and nobody's going to bat an eye. Girl, you go ahead and you do you. You deserve it, that kind of thing. And so at that point, it becomes a coping mechanism. I wasn't popping bottles at like, 8 a.m. or anything, but it just becomes part of daily life. You get the kids down to bed at night and you just want to relax on the sofa and veg out and have a glass of wine. And so that was part of that story for the longest time. Now things are different. And it's not even just because we moved out. We moved away from all of that. Things have settled down. We're with family again. We have a support network, but also my kids are a little bit more grown. Like, life is really, really good. However, when I came out here, I went right into bartending. Yet I found myself not letting myself slip too much into that world. It's really common for a lot of bartenders to like drinking throughout the shift, that kind of thing. Might have been just because I was a new bartender and I wanted to be sharp and on the ball. And I rarely drank, if at all. And if anything, it was like one shot with like one of your favorite regulars or something, and then that would be it. So, but I noticed that the relationship with alcohol was already starting to change. Now we get into deciding to have the business. Obviously, you want to be setting a good example. You want to lead by example. However, I'm also a coach that isn't telling you to give up all your favorite things. What I do say is, let's put in parameters, let's put in guardrails. So that way it doesn't take over your life. It's not ruining your goals. So that said, these things were starting to get in the way of my goals. I have, again, big ambitions for this business, the impact that I want to have out there in the world. I can't be working with one hand tied behind my back. I have too much brilliance that I want to put out there, but when I have brain fog days, I can't get the words out. I am not showing up as my full self. So I realize that it's this old identity that's getting in the way of this new identity. I no longer desire that as a coping mechanism. What I do like about it is kind of the vibe. And you can do it also. I've also been able to do that with completely non-alcoholic beverages. So that's always an option too. And in fact, there are times when I'm like, I really need a break from any alcohol whatsoever. And so I go with the mocktail version, or like we get sparkling waters and it's kind of like a placebo effect. We'll get the non-alcoholic beers. There's such a good selection of them out there now. So we'll go that route. So there's always that way to have that vibe too. So I don't know what the future holds for me. I know right now it's not something I want to give up entirely. I definitely have dialed it back though. And so when I talk about these guide rails, it's basically these new parameters. And you can take what I'm saying and apply it to different things. In fact, that's what I do with clients. Like somebody who really has a sweet tooth, let's set up some parameters around that so that you can still scratch that itch kind of thing without it completely taking over your life. We talk about a lot of things that can feel really intrusive because of these cravings or desires. It's these old identities that are coming up that are conflicting with the new person that we're wanting to be, the health and wellness that we're trying to build around our lives, that we are building around our lives, not just trying, but we are building it out. But these things come up. And so I thought that this was really important for me to talk about because I'm at a point where I don't really have the sweet tooth. I don't I'm very disciplined when it comes to nutrition in general because I just don't have those cravings anymore. Really desire that feeling of wellness that comes from healthy, nutritious foods. Like fried foods sit really heavy in my stomach. I don't like that feeling. Sweets, I have to have those guide rails in there. Otherwise, I get these crazy bad energy crashes, although they haven't been as bad nowadays because I believe that I have been fixing some of that insulin resistance that I was getting. But more on that some other point. Get your muscle in, build your muscle. But as an aside, yes, build out that muscle. You're going to increase your insulin sensitivity. So it's important to build out these parameters. And what I've been doing for myself, and it's not to say that this is going to work for everybody, you do have to think about what will work for you. So on the weekends, I still get together with my family and friends. Sometimes I want to have drinks. Sometimes I do completely abstain. I also find too, it's just the same idea as full on restriction, that doesn't seem to work for me. If I do a full restriction, then I go too overboard. And that's what's happened in the past. I have gone months without drinking and then okay, I'm going to start having one. And then all of a sudden we're back to that. Okay, each weekend I'm overdoing it. And then Monday comes around. Figuring out that balance for myself has been important. And again, I think that applies a lot to any kind of restrictive behavior with a caveat of people who have true addictions, that's another story. So I'm not advocating for that with somebody who is really truly struggling with addiction. I'm talking about most of us, the average person who just like this has just become a habit and a way of life. It's a really it's a drug. It literally is a drug that is very well accepted in society and that a lot of socializing revolves around. So if you're just somebody like me that just wants to be able to and enjoy that and then not have it completely take over, I'm setting out these parameters. And it has taken some time. And since it's taken me a little while of trial and error, I thought I would share this with you, see if any of these things might work for you or get you thinking about what could work for you. So it's now telling myself that I don't drink during the week. I don't say I'm trying to not drink during the week, that I can't drink during the week. I say I don't drink during the week. I am not always perfect. Sometimes a thing will pop up and I will have a beverage, something will call for it or whatever, but not like it used to be. But for the most part, I just don't drink during the week and it has served me really, really well. That phrasing is very important though. We can't have it feel restrictive. You can't say, I can't have a drink. I realize that sounds like it contradicts itself, but you get what I'm saying. What we tell ourselves matters. So by me saying I don't drink during the week, that becomes part of my identity. I'm just somebody who doesn't drink during the week. It's a matter of fact. It feels very different. Try it for yourself and see how it feels. The other parameter is that when I do drink, that I am getting plenty of water in there. So wanting to make sure that I am having a drink of water. Maybe I switch to a sparkling water in between beverages. That helps a lot. Gives my body time to break down the alcohol, rehydrate, and then by the time I'm ready to go to bed, I am basically sober. Which means I'm more likely not to skip on taking my vitamins. If I need to take electrolytes that night before I go to bed, like I'm taking care of all those things and I feel so much better the next day. I'm not 100%, but like the brain fog is like hardly noticeable. at that point, if at all. One of the other things that I do is I tend to work out on the weekends. I know most people don't prefer that, but I would also, that's another like little side tip, like maybe give it a try and see how you feel about it. Because the truth is, on the weekends, if it's a morning, I found that too many times I would sit and scroll, and before I knew it, it was 11:30 in the morning. I hadn't done anything else. Well, then I may as well have gone to the gym. I also like the fact that there's like nobody in the gym on the weekends, especially on a Sunday. So I go in there, I can get through my workouts that much quicker. And while I'm taking my little rest, I might pop in on Facebook or Instagram and search through it for a moment while the timer is ticking for me to go on to my next set. And then I get on the treadmill and kind of do the same things, like the doom scrolling, the doom walking kind of thing. But by the time 11:30 hits, I've already been out the door. I've already had my breakfast. I got my workout in. I even did a little bit of doom scrolling too, just that basically disassociative behavior that I think a lot of us have come into doing now. And not to say that that's a healthy behavior that we all do, but it is what it is. And I think this is just a good way to have it have less of a negative impact on our lives. And one thing to note is that if I am feeling a little hungover the next day, I make sure to go and do it anyway. I have a coin that sits next to my bed now, and it is based on the four pillars of Stoic philosophy, and one of them has to deal with discipline, so stick to itiveness. And so when I look at that coin and all of its separate markings, that is one of those things where I go, okay, that was a commitment to myself. I also need to make sure that I double down on the things that served me well on the days I don't feel the best, because I can get over it that much better. In fact, I do feel, if I have a little bit of a hangover, that I feel a lot better afterward. Now, I get it if it's like an extreme, like you just tied one on too much the night before. It's a different story. In that case, then maybe it's going a little bit easier, but whatever. I'm not getting into that part. The final thing I wanted to address when it came to those parameters was bringing in the pause. I want to acknowledge that the cravings still come in despite all of these other parameters I set up. There are times, especially like right before dinner, I start to just crave a glass of wine, like probably because this is part of the old identity coming through, but I really, really want that glass of wine. And it almost feels like I can't help myself. So what I have started doing was go, all right, it's still a little early. It's about, 5, 6 o'clock. I can always sit down and have that glass later on when we're watching our TV show. Like, how about I have it then? Let's see how I feel. I'm going to go get into the sparkling water, have that for the moment, just so I can kind of like scratch that itch. And then I'll see how I feel after that. And then maybe it's right after dinner and it's 8 o'clock. Well, okay, maybe I'm gonna have it. I'll have it in a little bit. Then it's 9 o'clock. By the time like that 9:30 comes around, now it's like, well, I'm getting tired. We're gonna be going to bed soon. Why would I get into a bottle of wine now? Even if I'm just gonna, it's a screw top and I could put it back in the fridge. That trick has saved me so many times over the last several months. I can't even tell you. I should probably mark down how many times it has come up for me and that I've done it, just so I have that metric. But people often talk about the pause. Sometimes it is just like that little bit of, "Oh, I just have to endure this for a moment. Maybe I can give in a little while." And you can see how the craving will pass. It might just be that you're doing something or something came up and it triggered that for you, but then you give yourself that chance to have the moment pass and it goes away more often than not. It's a crazy thing. And yeah, it takes a little bit of discipline. You've got to sit down and be like, why is this important to me? It's important to me because that's your motivation there to stay disciplined in the moment and get through it. And then after you've stacked that so many times, it becomes more of an automatic response. So this is what I talk about in the Move Studio with my Move method, with how I make things feel easier. It comes about over time. You have to front load the work in the beginning for it to be easier later, but it's so worth the work. So that's my share for the day. That is me rewriting my relationship with alcohol, how I've had to get into my old stories and habits, how you can do it as well. Identifying that there's that identity gap now because I've been putting in the work. And then setting the parameters, setting those guide rails around being able to stick to these new goals and not have old habits get in the way of that, and how that's been really successful for me. I really hope that you have some big takeaways from this. I know that if you were to start implementing this is going to help you out in multiple ways. But with that, I'm done for now. I will see you next time. And thank you once again for checking in here and listening to my ramblings. And before you go, make sure that you hit the subscribe, that you share this episode with somebody that you think might benefit from it. And I will see you next time. Take care. Thank you so much for being here on True Grit. I truly appreciate it. If this episode sparked something in you, share it, subscribe, or leave a quick review. It helps more people find these conversations. For more ways to connect, head to true-grit.fitness or come say hi on Instagram at true.grit_bold.wellness. I'll see you next time with more stories, lessons, and a little bit of grit.